Louise Jett from Ethical Society of St. Louis, and also done a lot of communications work with American Ethical Union as well as many other jobs. And a leader in training. Officially
certified last.
certified.
No, 2 years ago
And
in Minneapolis.
cool. All right, go for it.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Louise Jett. My pronouns are she and her. As Emily was saying, I am the creative director at the Ethical Society of St. Louis. I also am a national leader AU certified leader. I serve the National Leaders Council. I serve on the communications committee and I serve on the leadership committee. And it is an honor to be here at the 111th AU assembly. Absolutely. I keep getting emotional. So to say that I'm grateful to be here with you is an understatement. And welcome to everyone in the room and online. Our workshop is called Holding the Note, Emotional Labor and Ethical Culture. This is a hybrid workshop. And I'm going to try to be intentional about inviting voices from the room and from Zoom. If you're on Zoom, you'll not be able to unmute yourself, but you can put your responses in the chat and Emily will help us monitor those responses. But in the room, I will ask you to raise your hand when you want to respond and please participate. Everything today is invitational. You may always pass. You may participate by speaking, by writing in the chat, by listening, or by thinking, or writing in your notebook. Listening is participation too. Because we're going to talk about emotional labor, I want to name one thing at the start. Only share what you feel comfortable sharing. Share what feels appropriate for you, the room, and the moment. I don't want anybody to feel pressured, and I want us to enjoy our time together. Before we start, I'd like to just take one breath, just enough to arrive. So let's breathe in and out. I like that. I want to begin with an idea created by educator Celeste Bembry. She called it the parable of the choir. The parable says that a choir can sustain a note for an impossibly long time because individual singers do not breathe at the same time. One singer can pause to breathe while the other voices continue. No single singer has to hold the note forever. What makes the note possible is not one heroic voice. It is listening. It is trust. It is timing. It is the shared understanding that everyone gets to breathe and the music will continue. In this room, raise your hand, or online in the chat, you can raise your hand too. What stands out to you, or if you're on Zoom, please put it in the chat. What stands out to you about this parable? The parable of the choir. Adam.
It requires a group.
Exactly. It's communal. It's a community. Any other thoughts? For you just joining, the parable of the choir is a choir can hold a note for impossibly long because some people breathe while other people sing and it ebbs and flows. Okay. Connection.
And they're doing something beautiful. They're singing. It's not the parable of the rock pile.
Yes. We're creating something beautiful together when we're making music. And that's why I thought it was a really apt analogy. I would also say trust, right? If I trust you to hold the note so I can breathe. And rest. I do a lot, but rest is important. Rest is ethical. Listening, cooperating, timing, and I think most of all, shared responsibility. So this brings us, I think, to the thesis of the workshop. So as I said, not one heroic voice, listening, trust, and timing. But the thesis for me is we flourish together when responsibility is shared and not concentrated. I'm gonna say it again because it is the heart of everything I'm exploring today. We flourish together when responsibility is shared and not concentrated. So what is the note? If we're saying, sorry, I'm really off. This is hard to do. There we go. So what is the note we're trying to sustain together? A word or a phrase? Anybody?
Harmony.
Harmony.
Effort.
Effort. Community.
Service.
Service.
Nice.
Relationship. Belonging. Hope. Justice. Love. Trust. The work of ethical culture itself can be that note. But today I want to offer another possibility. What if the note is not only justice? What if the note is everything that quietly makes justice, community, and love possible? What if the note is the invisible work that lets a community keep singing? The greeting at the door, the quiet check-in, the follow-up email, the person who notices who is missing or whose voice is going unheard, the person who remembers what happened last time, the person who senses tension before it becomes conflict, the person who makes sure the newcomer does not stand alone, does not feel alone, the person who says after a hard meeting, "Are you okay?" These are not always the parts of community life that receive applause, but they are often the parts that keep that music from falling apart. When you think about a community you care about, what unseen work helps it remain emotionally livable? What do we think? Yeah.
Coffee.
Coffee. I'm gonna talk about that.
Usually in the back.
Right. And you love the coffee. Sometimes you're there for the coffee. Yeah. What else?
The greeter.
The greeter. St. Louis, we have a welcoming team. We have a dignity and belonging team. We're really concentrating on belonging right now. And that warm welcome, it means so much. If I come into your society, standing around, nobody says hi, nobody approaches me. Oh my gosh, it probably took me a lot of bravery to come to your society, especially if I did not grow up in ethical culture. So if I don't get a warm welcome, I'm not coming back. I want to discover what emotional labor is together. So let's name some of this unseen work like we've just been doing. And then I'll give you, we went through that. And let me go ahead and give you the definition. Well, first, okay, raise your hand if you've ever done this. Welcome newcomers. Okay. Checking in with somebody. Awesome. Remembering details. Great. Helping repair conflict. Awesome. Creating warmth in the room. Making coffee, teas, or snacks. Sometimes those refreshments are like the emotional infrastructure of the community, right? All that is holding the note, all of it. So now I want to name what we're talking about. Emotional labor is often the unseen work of tending relationships, anticipating needs, managing tension, creating belonging, sustaining morale, remembering what matters, and helping a community remain emotionally livable. I really like that phrase. Without this work, we don't retain members. People leave. So I also like to think about it as the burden of care, right? We're a community. We care for one another. The burden of care, which is a joy as well, is on us. So some of this work is joyful. Some of it is freely chosen. Some of it is meaningful and life-giving. And some of it becomes exhausting when it is invisible, when it is expected, when it is unsupported or concentrated in the same few people. Who's felt that before? The exhaustion of emotional labor. I have. That's why I wrote this workshop. And I'm not here to guilt anybody for doing too much, and I'm not here to guilt anybody for doing too little. Because the work itself is not the problem. Care is not the problem. Love, not the problem. Your community, not the problem. The problem occurs when a community depends on care without noticing who is carrying it. That is the problem. Have you ever noticed someone was missing before anyone else did? Yeah. Have you ever stayed after a meeting to check on someone? Helped manage a conflict that was never officially yours to manage? Or felt valued for your care, but unseen in your exhaustion? Yeah. But that's why the parable of the choir matters. A healthy choir, that's holding the note. That's why it matters. A healthy choir does not assume that the people who can hold the note beautifully should hold it forever. A healthy choir listens for who needs to breathe. Now, I want to ask the ethical question at the center of this workshop. I just went through all that. I'm telling you, I'm terrible at this slideshow today. There we go. Is it ethical for communities to depend on invisible sacrifice? I'll say it again. Is it ethical for communities to depend on invisible sacrifice? What rises in you when you hear that question? Say it again. Ah, women do a lot of emotional labor. Now, another thing that inspired this talk was a story about the singing nuns or the meowing nuns. You ever heard of the meowing nuns? So supposedly, some historians don't agree with this, but I think it is a nice parable, even if it isn't true. During medieval times, nuns did a lot of emotional labor. And there was a certain sect of nuns who would go out at night and meow loudly together. And when social scientists studied it, they thought they're having like this crisis because they're doing all this emotional labor. It's unseen, it's unappreciated, and it's expected of them. So they thought it was kind of a mass hysteria. Don't like that word, but. And I don't ask that question, that is it ethical for communities to depend on invisible sacrifice? I don't ask that question to create guilt. Most of us have benefited from emotional labor that we did not fully see. I certainly have. But most of us have also carried emotional labor that others did not fully see. Again, I have. And the point is not blame. The point is attention. What we pay attention to is sacred. Think of the attention economy, right? People are vying for your attention. Do you think it's worthless if people spend so much money trying to get it? Absolutely not. The point, like I said, is attention. When emotional labor becomes concentrated, several things happen. The person carrying it may become exhausted, resentful, or isolated. Other people may lose opportunities to develop their own capacity for care. The community, and we have seen this, the community may become dependent on one or two people that know everything, that they remember everything, that sense everything, that smooth everything over and keep everyone connected. Very quickly, those people burn out. And when they step back or move away or simply need to rest, Everyone is so surprised that the music has changed. They did not see it. It is invisible work. But the music did not change all of a sudden. That imbalance was already there. It was just being held quietly by someone with a very strong voice and a very big heart. Exactly the kind of people that we want in our community. So no community should depend on the quiet sacrifice of a few to sustain the many. That fact is not a criticism of people who give generously. It is a commitment to build communities worthy of their generosity. A commitment to build communities worthy of their generosity. Emotional labor becomes burdensome when it is invisible, expected, and concentrated. It becomes sustainable when it is recognized, chosen, valued, and shared. I want to talk about a little method that I did a workshop at the Susquehanna Valley Ethical Society on Zoom earlier this month. And it was called Pause, See, Choose, Mend. This applies to more than just emotional labor, but it is a way for us to navigate it, okay? So, and I think this is a very humanist practice. Pause. Before we rush to solve, assign, or even volunteer or rescue, we pause long enough to become present. Pause interrupts the automatic pattern where the same person always steps in because they always have. Then we see. We look honestly at what's happening. Who's carrying too much? Who's gone quiet? Who is always asked to do that thing that nobody else wants to do? Whose care is assumed? And who wants to contribute but has never been invited in? Then we choose. We choose how to respond responsibly. Maybe that means stepping forward. Maybe it means asking for help. Maybe it means saying, I cannot carry this alone. That's valid. Maybe it means designing a system instead of relying on a hero. Who's going to save us? We're going to save us. And then we mend. We repair what concentrated care has strained. That might mean apologizing for taking someone for granted. It might mean building trust. It might mean creating clearer roles. It might mean honoring rest as a part of the work instead of treating it as a failure.
Please, while you take a breath, I just want to note that
Yeah.
Alan Easton from St. Louis added invisible sacrifice is unavoidable. Each volunteer must set boundaries. And I'd like to add, and volunteers should be supported by the community, not be the only one encouraging their boundaries.
Yes. And step back and see if someone else wants to help. Oftentimes they do. Thank you, Alan. So which word feels most needed in your community or society right now? Anybody? Do y'all need to pause? Do you need to see? Do you need to choose? Do you need to mend?
For me, you want the answer.
Yeah.
Personally, the pausing is hard for me because I can't stand silence. So I think if I'm not hearing someone right then and there, oh, I can do that. I'm going to say, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that.
And what happens when you do that?
I'm taking away their ability to also take the pause before they say they're going to.
Exactly. If we don't pause, we don't invite other voices into the room, other people to step up. Thank you for sharing, Patty. Now, I want to be careful with language because there are certain practices that can help us with emotional labor, especially noticing, caring, what I call steadying and repairing. Kind of like pause, see, choose, mend, but not really, because they're not like a 4-step process. They can go in kind of any order, but they are examples of the work that pause, see, choose, mend can help us notice and share. Pause helps us become present. See helps us notice who's carrying too much. Choose asks how responsibility can be shared. And mend helps us repair what imbalance has harmed. So now let's get practical. So that we can think of this as a practice and not just theory. If we want our communities to sound more like healthy choirs, what would we do differently? Not in theory, but in practice. What helps people take turns holding the note? So what is one practice that could help a community share emotional labor more intentionally? Yes.
Okay. Well, I see in most organizations, including ours, there's the core people that always step up and somewhat overworked. I think we need to train people to empower them to feel comfortable to step up, those who usually don't.
Yeah. Pause helps that. As a journalist, I call that the pregnant pause, because it always gave birth to something that wasn't there before. People do not like silence, like Patty said. There's somebody else in that room, Patty, that also doesn't like silence. You give them 3 more minutes and they're going to volunteer. Great, yes.
Very specific. We do activities here preparing food. And I try to make sure I always write to the people who come to volunteer to thank them for coming. As an educator, I learned how important that was for the administration to thank teachers specifically.
Right, because what have I been saying? When the work is invisible, that is when that is when it hurts. That is when it's a problem, right? So the thank you, right? That's great.
Something I don't put stuff here, and I don't know how to put it into words, but create ways for people with disabilities to participate.
Yeah. So like low pressure opportunities for leadership. Today you make coffee, or we need a greeter. And then maybe you work up and before you know it, you're on the board, but just started making coffee, being the greeter, low pressure, easy things, right? Yeah.
Things also, I think it's important. When we get new members and we do the orientation with them, one of the things that I always like to do with it was ask them what their skills are. And how they feel they might want to get involved after hearing about some things that where they usually like fit in. Not
Excellent.
pressuring them, just finding out their skills.
A volunteer survey that says, what do you like to do? What are you really good at? What do you want to volunteer for? So that when you have a need, so-and-so's already said he loves doing that. Let's call him. Yeah, yeah. Any other examples? So maybe we rotate welcoming roles so the same person isn't always responsible for belonging. Or we check capacity before asking someone to take on emotional work. We create teams instead of informal caretakers. It's truly collaborative when we share this emotional labor. We train more people in conflict engagement and repair. We make volunteer roles clear and time limited. Who loves it when they know you need me here from 2 to 4 and then I'm done, right? Makes it easier. We also follow up with the person who helped volunteer or facilitated that hard conversation. Thanking people specifically for the care and the work they do. Sharing institutional memory instead of allowing one person to become the living archive, because that's emotional labor too. Normalizing rest, stepping back, saying no, asking Who else can help hold this before assuming that the same person will, even if that same person is you? Right? Patty is assuming it's got to be me, right?
It took me years to learn to say no to people.
Same. Still not very good at it, right? I need this just as much as anybody else in this room. That's why I've thought so much about it. But what I really think we need to do is build systems instead of depending on heroes. This is emotional infrastructure. Communities often think about infrastructures as the building, this awesome historic building that we're in, budgets, bylaws, technologies, policies, and programs. Those things are very important, but every community needs emotional infrastructure as well. It is the set of practices that helps people feel welcomed, heard, supported, accountable, and able to return after something goes wrong. And you might not need the infrastructure when everything's going well, but you really need it when things go sideways. The question is whether we build that infrastructure intentionally or whether we allow it to rest on the shoulders of whoever seems to have the biggest heart, right? Often the people who step up, they're the ones we need the most. They have the biggest hearts and they burn out so quickly. So flourishing requires both offering care and allowing ourselves to receive it. A healthy community needs people willing to hold the note and people willing to say they have held it too long and someone else needs to carry it. Let's brainstorm. For your society specifically, what kind of emotional infrastructure do you think you need to build? I'm going to pause. Wait. It's a big question. Yes, Eric. Listening, it's a big one. Because we might agree, we might be on the same page, but if we're not listening to each other, we're arguing and we're on the same page, but we don't know it because we didn't listen. That's great. Randy.
Oh, thank you, culture.
Appreciation, gratitude. Yeah.
Gotta ask, need help, ask.
Ask for help, right? That's like the other side of the coin, right? We need to, when we need help, it's okay. When we need to rest, it's okay. If we can't do that right now, it's okay. And it's okay to say, I don't know. And I didn't know that for 30 years. Yeah, Adam.
One of the things that comes to mind is like a lot of the things feel like they've become stale of like, because we like, as part of the program, we asked and said, we would love it if you can help us with giant laundry list of tasks. And that feels like it is a sort of stale practice, but I don't know how to break out of it.
Right, so an innovative question would be, you asked me when I visited Austin, right? What'd you think of that? You could ask a member, listen, we always have a volunteer that does X, Y, Z. How would you change that? What would it look like if you led that initiative? I was a manager in a restaurant and the owner of the restaurant said, you do it your way. As long as it gets done, I don't care. I loved him, right? I could cut the tomatoes however I wanted.
Yeah, on that note, I recommend people check out the Management Center, which has a check your biases and improve results with PTR, and that stands for preferences, traditions, and requirements. Because, individual preferences are not the same as institutional requirements. And I think that sometimes we also, traditions are lovely, but they shouldn't be limiting.
If I need you to hold the note for me because I need to breathe, do I have the right to tell you what to sing? Or how to sing it? No, I let you do it your way, right? That was a really hard lesson for me to learn. I was the editor of my college newspaper. And I thought, well, I had student employees and I was a student. And I was like, I'll just do everything. They won't do it, I will. That's not sustainable. It's not possible. So I had to learn that they could do it. It wouldn't be the way I would do it. And that's okay. It still gets done. Yeah, I thought, yes. Yes. That's hard, but yes. And maybe the coffee is a little stronger. Maybe it's a little weaker. It's okay, right? It doesn't have to be your way or the highway. Yeah, Joe.
That's great anecdote about a new mom who goes to hand the baby off to dad, and on this mother of mothers there, and she hands the father. No, not like that. And after she corrects her mom takes the back and says, "Don't become the expert on that baby." Because it starts with you don't know how to hold it right, and then it turns into you don't know how to toilet it right, and it turns into you don't know how to clean right, or walk right, or dress right, or you become the expert on that baby. You're gonna be the only one doing anything.
Yeah. When my son was little, people would say, "I can't believe you let him do that." I'm like, he's 3. I don't let him do anything. Do you think he asks me before he throws things and climbs a tree? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, but yeah, I was not the expert. He was himself, right? So tried to keep him safe, but come on, you can't control people. You just can't. So I got to get into my closing. My goodness, that went fast. And I want to return to the choir. A healthy choir does not ask one singer to become extraordinary. It teaches everyone to listen. It teaches everyone to breathe. It teaches everyone to carry the note for a while. Flourishing requires both offering care and allowing ourselves to receive it. I invite you to take a moment of private reflection and just think to yourself, what's one note that I can help hold? And what's one note I'm ready to put down? The parable of the choir reminds us that no one voice sustains music alone. Ethical culture asks us to build communities where the worth of every person can be honored and celebrated. That includes the person who's tired, who's been dependable, who notices everything, who needs to step back, who's ready to step up. No community should depend on the quiet sacrifice of a few to sustain the many. We flourish together when responsibility is shared and not concentrated. May we become communities where everyone has the chance to sing, everyone has the chance to breathe, and everyone learns in time how to hold the note for one another. I have a handout because that's who I am. And that is the QR code. That is the link. You can email me at ljett@aeu.org. And I will now close my talk and open up the floor for questions. We have about 7 minutes. Yeah. Any questions? Any thoughts? Yes.
Kirk Mullen.
Hi, Kirk.
I agree. I agree with this. But my personal history is that if you want something done, right, if you really want it done, if you know how it's supposed to be done, okay, and you're on a time limit, you need to give directions, specific directions, that it's off of you. The responsibility is off of you. You have done your part. It's up to the other person.
Yeah.
To do his or their part.
Right. So when I took over the pizza place, I was the manager of Pizza Man in Hillsborough, Illinois. I was 21 years old. Thought I was hot stuff. And my boss trained me how to make the roast beef and cut the meat for the sandwiches. And every time he showed me something, he would literally say, but you don't have to do it that way. You can do it however you want, as long as it gets done and people aren't complaining, right? Food's gotta taste good, but do it your way. But he would show me, he would say, this is how I do it. This is how I cut the tomato. This is how I cut the meat. Because we made our own Italian beef. It was a hard work. I actually threw my back out making pizzas one day. But and then so when I had staff, I was like, this is how I mop the bathroom. As long as the floor is clean, I don't care how you do it, right? But I would show them first. Yes, we can't set people up to fail. I agree. But we can't demand that they're clones of us. We gotta let them do it their way.
A lot of what you have said today reminds me of another talk that I heard, called the glue work. And it was, not a professional setting, they were talking about it in the workplace. And, the speaker was identifying these things that so often go unrecognized and unrewarded. Talking about many of these same activities that you identified, and also pointed out how at the same time, they often fall disproportionately on women,
Yes.
especially in the workplace. And
Yeah.
so it falls on these individuals and it continues to be unrecognized and unrewarded.
Yes,
And how unfair it is.
I agree. Thank you, Damien. Yes.
As chair of the social service board here, I feel trapped sometimes because we are very small in terms of our volunteer base. And there's no succession. And I'm 75 years old, I'm working harder now than I was when I was working. And I need a solution, and I don't really have one, and I can't just say, I'm not doing this anymore, this is nobody really to take my place right now. And we're feeding people, so, yeah.
But sometimes if no one else steps up, the work will not get done.
I know, and I
We can,
cannot-
but yes, you can. I'm giving, I know, but someone will step up. I'm giving you permission. Not to just walk away, not to just do it before you just walk away and throw your hands up in the air and people are hungry. Tell people, hey, I need help. I don't want this to slip through the cracks. I really need help. Help me. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to walk away. I'm sorry, right?
No, we have a great team here, we do, and we all enjoy working together. And I can keep going for another year or two maybe, but there's an end. And we've also been talking about it on our executive board of the succession and making sure things are in place for others to take over financially, et cetera. But it's a real challenge.
And I love that you're thinking about it 2 years from now. We're like, you've got time, right? What, you're like, it'll be here before we know it. But what would it look like to invite someone who doesn't have the experience to shadow you, to learn, right? Or someone that you wouldn't expect, right? What if there's a member in your community who is hungry for volunteerism, but has never been asked to step up? And a simple invitation into leadership can go a long way.
And I would add to that, don't feel restricted by your society. You can ask your society, do you know a friend or family member? Could you post in the community that you're in, that we're looking for this kind of talent or skill? Like, let's open up and reach out. Because there are answers out there in the world and people probably would like to support and find those answers with us.
Absolutely, and do it before you burn out and you just have to walk away, or you're in the hospital. So you can't do it anymore because you've been sacrificing yourself, right?
I have a great team.
I know. And don't feel guilty. I did not want anybody to feel guilty. I overcommit. I work. So I'm a workaholic, right? Especially after my son moved out, because I have so much more time and I like to be busy. So this is not to make you feel guilty, but it's to help us retain members of our movement, right? Enthusiastic people come in, they volunteer for a lot. Sit down and talk to them about the parable of the choir. Tell them they don't have to hold the note by themselves. Let them know that you're there if they need to breathe. Adam.
Kind of follow what she said, what
Emily.
you brought up, Emily, about PTR, preferences, traditions, requirements. what a great, like, kind of check, you're like, wait a second, is this thing I'm so worked up about actually a requirement? Maybe.
Is it just my preference?
Or is it just what we do every week, and so therefore we feel
Oh,
like,
I-
what's happened?
Great example, paper program in St. Louis. Forever, we had a paper program. We're like, no more paper program. Ah, so like they were up in arms. So we were like, how come? Now we have a slide. It has the whole program on it. We told people take a picture of it. If they like to look at the program, it's up on the slide. Now we don't have to have volunteers print out all the programs, which is a waste of trees, which is against our value of sustainability. But it was a preference to have the paper program. Same thing with paper newsletters, right? Now we will still, on occasion, if someone wants a paper newsletter, we can print it and drop it off or mail it. But for the most part, it's digital now.
I want to add to that. It is so helpful if you communicate the transition and the reason for that so that it doesn't feel like a shock. I don't know if in the room, but when the AEU changed from mailing out the dialogue to emailing it, people were not happy. And because it was a shock, why am I not getting this thing anymore?
Yeah, exactly. And even though we talked about it, they still wanted that paper program. And we're like, here's the other solution. Offer them something else that's more sustainable, that has less emotional labor tied to it, that is easier, that is accessible. It's actually more accessible. You know, take a picture with your phone. You got it on. We also post the program every Sunday on our Facebook. So you can go and look at it there with all our other pictures of our platform.
Final words.
Thank you so much. I hope I've you're too kind. I really hope you think about emotional labor and the invisible work that goes on to make your society run. And I really want to inspire you to really concentrate on community care and loving one another. Thank you.